Greetings, my fellow film lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, and today is March 5th, 2014. It's, late, not early, I would say early Wednesday evening, pretty mellowed out here among the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. Again, I may have to say that. Well, today I'm going to read a little article that was done by Poster Joseph Watson from Infowars.com, and it was published on the same date, March 5th, 2014, and it's entitled Showdown, Maryland to target 110,000 citizens with gun confiscation. And it was interesting because it was looks like it was posted by Yahan. So it was like there's people that haven't seen each other in a while, so there's a little love out there. But don't worry, I like to do my little podcasting in front of a public and all that. Hopefully don't yell too much. Alright, let's begin. New law would link gun registry with criminal database. Authorities in Maryland are set to target 110,000 citizens with gun confiscation under a new law that would link the state's gun registry with this criminal database, with a new trooper set to be hired to enforce door-to-door visits of illegal gun owners. Maryland State Police complained there is no way for them to identify gun owners who have been convicted of felonies, meaning they can't check if weapons have been relinquished in accordance with state law. New legislation being considered by the Maryland House of Delegates would allow the police to run checks of the state's gun registry against its criminal database at least twice a year at a cost of $300,000 to create the new system. State police estimate if they link the databases, they would find 10% of registered gun owners. About 110,000 people will be disqualified. They estimate a rate of 1% each year thereafter, reports the Associated Press, adding that 7 new full-time troopers to investigate findings from the new database would be hired, with a cost of more than $1 million a year for salaries and equipment. In other words, more armed police would be needed to conduct dangerous door-to-door gun confiscations of thousands of people that would be snagged under the new law. This smacks of police state mentality, said Maryland resident Ronald Smith in written testimony before a hearing on Tuesday. While a law is ostensibly aimed at disarming criminals, we have seen a steady expansion of reasons that they are being applied to bar Americans from owning firearms. The law also creates a chilling effect on the Second Amendment by implying that gun owners are all guilty until proven innocent. Last year, we report on how U.S. Navy veteran David Schmecker has his guns confiscated by police after a forced psychiatric evaluation despite him of having no criminal or psychiatric history. In August 12th, we reported on how a veteran in Ohio had his guns taken because he was adjudged to be mentally incompetent despite the fact that his previous VA psychiatric evaluations were all clear. He was not on medication and he had no criminal record. In February 2012, David Sardi, one of the star's National Geographic's Doomsday Prepper show, visited his doctor complaining of chest pains, only to have the doctors later commit him into a psychiatric ward and alert authorities before Sardi was declared mentally defective and put on an FBI list that stripped him from his Second Amendment rights. Maryland preparations for gun confiscation arrive on the back of a similar showdown in Connecticut, where the vast majority of residents refuse to register their assault rifles and high-capacity magazines in accordance with a new law that took effect on January 1st. Gun groups are now challenging authorities to either proceed with mass gun confiscation or repeal the law in full. Yes, and I do find this very, absolutely 100% treasonous, and those bastards in Maryland, the legislators and the governor, should be thrown in prison, period, no remorse. You know why? Because they already breached their oath of office by not honoring the U.S. Constitution and their own state constitution as well. Because not just the Second Amendment they were violating on this disgusting law, they infringed on their Fourth, the people's Fourth, Fifth, Ninth, and 10th. Yes, I can say the 10th too because because they believe they can supersede the supreme law of the land, the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. So, null and void on that disgusting law. And in addition, I just did a little homework, and we could really look at the Declaration of Rights under the Constitution of Maryland. And these are the areas I know in my heart they breached. Article 1, that all government of right originates from the people, is founded in compact only and instituted solely for the good of the whole, and they have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their form of government in such matter as they may deem expedient. Article 2, the Constitution of the United States and the laws made or which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which all shall be made under the authority of the United States are and shall be the supreme law of the state, and judges of the state and all the people of the state are and shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution of this state to the contrary notwithstanding. And we could hit Article 3, that power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution thereof, nor prohibited by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people thereof. 4. Article 4, that the people of the state have the sole and exclusive right of regulating internal government and police thereof as a free and sovereign and independent state. And here, and it says, and going a little bit further down, my friends, forgive me here, Article 7, that the people, that's mostly elections. Alright, it's mainly elections, excuse me. The people have the right to participate in the legislature, and it is the best security of liberty and the foundation of all free government. For this purpose, elections ought to be free and frequent, and every citizen have qualifications prescribed by the Constitution ought to have the right of suffrage. Alright, so it says here, Article 9, that no power of suspending laws or the execution of laws unless by or derived from the legislature ought to be exercised or allowed. Alright, and of course, it says here, Article 14, that no aid, charge, tax, burthen, or fees ought to be rated or levied under any pretense without consent of legislators. Alright, and we can go a little bit down more. Article 17, that retrospective laws punishing acts as committed before the existence of such laws and by them only declared criminal are oppressive and unjust and incompatible with liberty. Wherefore, no ex post facto law ought to be made, nor any retrospective oath or restriction be imposed or required. And how about Article 18, that no law to attaint particularly persons of treason or felony ought to be made in any case or any time hereafter. Bingo! Alright, and we can go 19, that every man for any injury done to him and his person the property ought to be remedied by the course of the law of the land, and ought to have justice and right freely without sale, fully without any denial, or speedily without delay according to the law of the land. Ah, man, interesting here. Alright. And we can go Article 22, which is equivalent to the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, that no man ought to be compelled to give evidence against himself in a criminal case as a fact. And Article 24, that no man ought to be taken or imprisoned or deceased for his freeholds, liberties, or privileges, or outlawed or exiled in any manner, destroyed or deprived of his life, liberty, or property, but by the judgment by his peers or by the law of the land. I'm fascinated here. And we can go a little bit further here. Of course, all warrants without oath or affirmation to search suspected places or seize in any person or property or grievous and oppressive. And all general warrants to search suspected places or to apprehend suspected persons without naming or describing the place or a person, special or illegal, or ought not to be granted. Equal to the Fourth Amendment, right? Article 27, that no conviction shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture of estate. And we can look at 28, that all well-regulated militia is proper and natural defense of a free government. Yeah, their little pathetic treasonous plan deprives that too. And of course, we'll just hit this final one all the way down. 45, Article 45 of Maryland's Constitution under Declaration of Rights. This enumeration of rights shall not be construed to impair or deny others retained by the people. What is that equivalent to? The 9th. Remember, the 9th is very essential. Natural law. I know a lot of folks may not like that, but who cares? And so, how I see this, and I'll post this all on my Facebook, on my Spreaker page. So bear with me on that. And all I can say what the legislators, the elected service in Maryland done, they admit themselves to be pacifistic tyrants with chicken hawk attributes. Because I can tell you this, I think the state troopers should tell them, you want to be tough? You get out there, get those hands dirty, and go door to door and try to take away people's firearms or any property. Because I remember one time they did a case, or it was a Lava Wheeler case, even though him and his wife was involved in a subversive group called National Alliance. I'm not saying I'm for that particular organization, but their rights got violated big time. And she even said it in one of the segments of their show, even though she used the whole white patriots thing. They're all going after you. I have to correct it. They're going after anyone that's a freedom lover and sovereign thinker. That's all I have to say about this particular article. And there's one quote here from a gentleman from Maryland, one of the founding fathers, one of the people who signed the Constitution, Luther Martin, member of Continental Congress, Maryland delegated to the Constitutional Convention. This was written in the Maryland Journal, 28th of March, 1788. He stated, "The whole story of mankind proves that so far from parting with the powers actually delegated to it, government is constantly encroaching on the small pittance of rights are reserved by the people to themselves and gradually wresting them out of their hands." So the whole thing is, he's saying that government can be a dangerous entity. And in Latin, it means, again, control of the mind. Jefferson warned us about it in the Declaration of Independence. You never trust them. You put their feet to the fire in good faith. So that's all I have to say. And you could, hit me, take your comments, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Tumblr, YouTube, thumbs up, thumbs down, middle fingers, love me, hate me, commend me, criticize me. Send me information too, that'd be really cool. I really appreciate that. And that's it for now. And as always, demonic resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate societies. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.